Percents on Khan Academy. So finding percents on Khan Academy. So finding percents on Khan Academy, this is going to be your problem type 1. Basically, you're going to have 72% of 200. That's going to be your first example problem. The first thing that you need to know, when you see the word of, what does that mean to do? What basic operation is it asking you to do when you see the word of? Multiply, yeah. So of means to multiply. So of means to multiply. So your first example problem is we're going to do what is 72% of 200. Now, Mr. Butts does these problems differently than what I do. I like to set these problems up as a proportion, okay? Now, we talked about this real brief last Thursday when I was in here. A proportion is made up of a ratio, and a ratio is a comparison of two things. So the proportion that we're going to use for these type of problems is going to be percent over 100. Hey, Michael, put your hand down for now. Equals, and then the words that we're going to use is over of. We're going to use this proportion for both examples 1 and 2. Okay? So when you see what is 72% of 200, all we're going to do is basically plug in the information. Now, percent is always going to be over 100. So the one that's going to change is the is over of. So let's look at it. So it's asking, what is 72% of 200? So what do we know? Do we know the percent? Yeah, what's my percent? So we're going to do 72 because that's my percent. And percent always goes over 100 equals is over of. Do I know what my is? What is 72% of 200? Do I know what the is?
Multiply.
Nah. So I don't know what the is, but do I know what the of is? What number comes right after of? 200. So we're going to substitute that on the bottom part for my of. I know it sounds weird right now. So we're trying to find is. So we're going to use any variable that you want. I like to use x, it's basic, to solve. Now, last Thursday, we also talked, once we have a proportion, we're going to solve by two words. How do I solve this proportion? Cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply 72 times 200. So I'm going to take 72 times 200. 14,400. Not right now, after notes. Then we're going to cross multiply, go in the other direction. So what's 100 times x? 100x. Okay? Now, a long time ago when I was here on Thursday, we now have something that you guys should be familiar with. Bless you. A one-step equation. So that means I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to circle my variable. My goal is to get this variable x by itself, right? So how do I get that x by itself?
Don't you divide it by 100?
You sure do. You divide it by 100. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other side. So x is going to equal, what's 14,400 divided by 100? 144. And then box it. That's your answer. So what that's basically saying is that 72% of 200 is going to equal 144. Yes?
Don't we have one sheet like
You are not going to have a worksheet like this. It's all going to be on Khan Academy. So when you guys go to get on Khan Academy and you do those percent word problems, you're going to have some problems that are set up just like this. Okay? So when you use this proportion, percent over 100 equals is over of, and you substitute and solve, you're going to get the right answer. Okay? Okay, you're actually, guys, you are going to work on proportions starting tomorrow. but it won't be in a word problem setting. Okay, let's look at example problem type number 2. So when you're looking at problem type number 2, we're going to solve it the exact same way. We're still going to use the same proportion. So when I say we're going to use the same proportion, we're still going to use percent. Percent always goes over what, you guys? 100. And the other part of our proportion is over of. Okay? Now, when you see the word is means what? Think about it. Listen to this. 3 plus 2 is... So what does is mean? Equals, yeah. So is means equals. So, again, we're using this. It's saying 4 is what percent of 5? So what are we trying to find here? Yeah, the percent. So, same proportion. Do I know what the percent is here? No. So what can I put in for my percent sign? An X or a P, doesn't matter, or a D or an F or an E, G, H, I. Okay, so now the second part of proportion is over of. What number is next to my is? 4. So what do I put on top?
4.
What number is next to of?
5.
So what do I put on bottom?
IS or...
Are you critiquing my sloppy handwriting? Yes, that's an IS. Okay. Now, from here, what do I do?
You multiply, cross multiply.
Cross multiply. Well, let's X times 5.
What's that dress? 5?
5 what?
500. Oh, 5, 8.
Equals to 400. Good. Now, if you guys wanted to cross multiply top to bottom, like let's say you wanted to take 100 times 4 and do 400, then X times 5 and get 5X, you can do it opposite too. It does not matter. I always just go top to bottom. I always thought start top left, bottom right. It's what works for me. Okay, so now I have, as Kelly told us earlier, a one-step equation. So to help me solve, I circle my variable. I draw my line of equality. My goal is to figure out what X equals. So how do I get the X by itself?
You divide by 5.
Divide by... Oh, I'm a step ahead of you. I'm on my A game. I've had plenty of days off.
It equals 80.
80. Now, X equals 80 what? Percent. Because I was trying to figure out what the percent was. So, 4 is 80% of 5. So think about it. If you guys took a quiz, and there are 5 possible problems, right? And you got a 4 out of 5 on that quiz, a 4 out of 5 means you got a 80%, a B. All right, now these are my favorite ones. The next 3 example problems are my favorite, okay? So I hope you guys enjoy them as much as I do. I know you will, right? Oh, come on. Can you do what? Yeah. Okay, so percent word problems on Khan Academy. The following blank can be used to solve percent word problems. When we see something set up like this, it's a what? What I give you guys for the first 2 example problems to help us solve. What was that word I used? It's made up of 2 ratios. Starts with a P.
Percent.
Percent over 100 equals is over of. What's that thing called when I use 2 comparisons? Say it again. Good. So the following proportion can be used to solve percent word problems. So proportion. Okay. Now, you guys know this next part too. What are you grinning about? All right. So the following proportion can be used to solve percent word problems. You guys know the first part of the proportion. You got it. Percent over 100. Now the second part is going to be, bless you, is going to be a little bit different. Okay. My second part of my proportion is going to be part or partial. So part or partial over, what do you think? If you're doing part of it, what's going to be on the bottom? Huh? So whole, yeah, or total. Okay? So for the word problems, we're going to use this proportion. Percent over 100 equals part over whole or total. Okay? To solve, what do? You know this word. You tell me every time. To solve a proportion, what do, you guys? Cross multiply. All right, we have it down? Slackers, come on.
I like it.
You what?
Young niggas things. That.
Oh, my, one of the kids made it for me.
Oh.
All right, here we go. Word problems. My favorite. Example number 1, here we go. So, when I do word problems, I used to look at them and just get overwhelmed because it's a lot of information, and I always hate trying to figure out what information do I need. So when I personally do word problems, I read through it, and then I go back through it, and I determine what information that they're giving me. So it says, Sophie Ruth is eating a 50-gram chocolate bar, which contains 30% of cocoa. How many grams of cocoa are in the chocolate bar? So, I'm going to write out my proportion that we're going to use, which is percent over 100 equals part over whole. And then I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to find my information. So what information am I given? She's eating a what? A 50-gram chocolate bar, which contains what? Okay, so I'm probably going to need that information. So then what do I need to find out? What are they asking me? What am I solving for?
What is that?
How many grams of cocoa are in the chocolate bar?
No, below the
Whole.
part. Whole.
So how many grams
No,
of
it looks
cocoa
like a with 6.
are in it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it does. My L and E I wrote in cursive. So we're going to take this information and we're going to plug it into our proportion. So do I know the percent here? Yeah, what is it? And what's 30 always go over? What's my percent always go over? Okay. Okay. Now my second part of my proportion, I'm looking part over whole. So imagine she has this chocolate bar in her hand. That chocolate bar is 50 grams. Okay? They're asking how many grams of cocoa are in the chocolate bar. So let's say that I have a Snickers bar right here. This Snickers bar, when I put it on the scale, is 50 grams. They want to know how many of those grams are cocoa. So the 50 grams, is that going to be the total weight of my candy bar or the part weight of the candy bar? Total. So that 50 grams is my total weight of the candy bar. So they're asking me how much of that candy bar is made up of cocoa. Well, think about it. You guys, if I have a Snickers bar in my hand, what's a Snickers bar all made up of? Peanuts, caramel, nougat, whatever they say, chocolate, some other stuff. Some other stuff, right? If you get an almond one. So you have this Snickers bar that weighs 50 grams. Then the other ingredients make up part of that, right? So they're trying to say, out of this Snickers bar that weighs 50 grams, how much of that is actually just cocoa?
Don't you put the X on the top?
Yeah, you put the X on the top. Because we're trying to figure out, or C for cocoa. I'm going to use a C for cocoa, because that's what we're trying to determine here.
Can I have a 1 pound Snicker bar?
I'm just gonna use the chocolate bar.
That would be amazing. Okay, so to solve this then, we just cross multiply.
I got you.
So 30 times 50 is what? Okay. Equals, then I cross multiply my other side. 100 times C. Will you check on Kalon? His stomach wasn't feeling the best. 100C. And then I solve. Circle my variable. Draw my line of equality. How do I get the C by itself?
Divide by 100.
So C equals what? 15.
Percent.
Nah.
I mean, not percent.
15. 15 what? Grams of cocoa. So 15, pardon my writing.
Let's look at it now. Let's look at now, please.
When we're done with our notes. So 15 grams of cocoa. So if you've got this one down, go ahead and start looking at the next one. So if you have example number 1 down, go ahead and take a look at example number 2 and see if you can start determining what information you know and setting up your proportion. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This one gives you some information that you don't need. Okay?
So we're gonna skip it.
No. You're going to have to be smart enough to determine what information is needed and what information is not needed. So example number 2 reads, a coin contains 1.25 grams of nickel and 3.75 grams of copper for a total weight of 5 grams. What percentage of the metal in the coin is copper? So what question are they asking us? What are they asking us to find? What are we trying to find here? The percent, okay? So they're asking us to find the percent of what, though? The percent of metal in the coin, what is what? Copper. So we're trying to find the percent of copper. So up here, we have 3 numbers. We're not going to need all 3 of those numbers. Now, our proportion, we need to find the percent over 100. Well, we don't know what the percent is, do we? Because that's what we're going to find. So we don't know the percent, so we're going to put P over 100. So now we need to find our part over whole. So what's the total weight of the coin? So where would that 5 go? On the bottom, because that's my whole number. Now I have 2 numbers up here. I have 1.25 grams of nickel and 3.75 grams of copper. I'm trying to find the percent of copper. So which number am I going to use here? Am I going to use the grams for nickel or the grams for copper? Yeah. So what's the number of grams for copper? 3.75. So the information I did not need was the grams of nickel. Because it's asking me to find the percent of the coin that's made out of copper. Okay? So, what do I do next? Jaden, what do I do from here? Don't shrug your shoulders at me. What have we done in the past 3 problems once we set up our proportion? Cross multiply. So I'm going to make an X and multiply. So what's P times 5, Jaden? What's P times 5? 5 what? 5P. Equals. And then I'm going to take 100 times 3.75. What's 100 times 3.75? 375. Yeah, you just basically move that decimal to the right twice, right? Circle my variable, draw my line. All right, David. Now what do I do to get this variable by itself? Oh, that's not even for you. Okay, you're going to divide by 5.
Yeah, divide by 5.
Yes, it does. Okay, now 375 divided by 5 is,
75.
y'all agree? 75 what? 75% is made up of what? Copper.
5 grams.
Make sure you have a percent on the back of your 75. You sure can after we do this next example. Kaylin, you might have to look off the dingies. All right, our last example problem. Now, guys, I'm going to tell you this. These con notes, guess what? If you use them on your Khan Academy questions, I bet you might even see some of the same problems. Hint, hint. All right. Oh, I like this one too. See, I like these word problems. Samuel has a collection of toy cars. His favorites are the 27 red ones, which makes up 60% of his collection. How many toy cars does Samuel have? So, 20%. So we have percent. Then I have part over whole or total. Okay. So, what information am I trying to find? So what am I trying to find out? How many toy cars does Samuel have? What other information do I have? I heard it, 60%, so I know the percent, right? And then what else do I know? 27 red ones make up 60%. Okay, so where does my percent go? Okay, so my percent goes on top, so 60 over 100, because it's percent always over 100, equals part over whole. So do I know part of his collection or his total number of cars he has? Yeah, I only know parts of the collection, because I only know how many red ones he has, right? So the 27 red ones is part of the collection. It's not the whole collection. So 27 is going to go top or bottom? Top for part. So I'm trying to find out the total number of cars, right? You want me to use X? All right. Now, just like we've done for the past 4 example problems, once I set up my proportion, I simply just cross multiply. So 60 times X. 100 times 27. 2700. 2,700. Circle my variable. Draw my line. How do I get my variable by itself? X then equals 27 divided by 60. 2,700 divided by 60. 45 what? Nope. 45 C, so it's 45 cars. So he has 45 cars altogether. Of those 45 cars, how many are red? And because 27 out of 45 is a what percent? 60. That is it.